The second of the two Half-Life Alyx location previews is situated in Russell's lab, who's the guy you meet near the start of the game, and he gives you your gravity gloves and almost shoots you with your pistol.
It's unloaded now!
This environment is a lot smaller than the City 17 one, but it's more densely packed with details and clutter, which I think makes it the more interesting of the two, even if, to an outsider, it's not as visually pleasing because it's just a few dirty, dark old rooms. I assume that as you enter his apartment, you're greeted to this. Just an old person's living room, right? Well, clearly not. He doesn't make much of an effort to disguise the fact that there's something going on behind here, which you can even see if you crouch down to ground level. If you push this red button, the lockers slide away to reveal an entrance into another area, Russell's lab. It follows the old-fashioned style, only instead of VHS tapes there are old computer monitors and electrical zappy sounds. And in the far corner is a glimpse at the future of VR gaming. Bed up against the wall and damaged walls and ceiling from where you've gotten a little bit carried away. And here we can see where you get your gravity gloves in-game, as per this sequence from the trailer. And obviously all these things embedded in the ceiling are from failed, or successful, experiments with these devices. I bet your first task is to retrieve these items for him. And that's the full extent of this preview, but there are two more rooms that you can get into. The first is this tent-like structure, which seems to be where he developed the prototype gloves. And the other room looks like some kind of escape hatch that probably leads you out into City 17 again. In fact, I know it does. You jump down there and you end up out here, where he gives you your gun.
It's unloaded!
Looking back at these windows, it's got to be the room we've just been exploring. You can even see the duct tape on this window here. He stood looking out of this one here, and this third window isn't in his apartment. Let's start with the small details, beginning with the fridge, which has become a bit of a fan favourite. You'll see a head crab carefully labelled with "Do Not Eat", though I've got to say I bet it tastes like chicken. I went in for a good look, effectively head crabbing myself. I probably wouldn't last long in City 17. I saw a subreddit post where somebody commented on how low quality the items in the fridge were. Well, guess what? It happened to me too. There's no reason why, my PC's more than capable of powering it. Items in Half-Life Alyx have different levels of detail, and for some reason in this preview they sometimes get stuck on a lower quality one, even though they're close enough to your view that they should have been switched out for a better one. Hopefully this won't be a problem in game, or we'll be seeing posts of square headcrabs with humorous titles like Half-Life 1 confirmed. There's a gnome fridge magnet. This is a reference to the toughest achievement in Half-Life 2 Episode 2. For this one you had to carry a gnome ornament all the way through the game, putting it on a spaceship at the end. I did it. I quite enjoyed playing with the physics objects inside this fridge. Some light sources cause these items to cast proper shadows, others don't. But trying this in Half-Life Alyx might be different. It's nice to see that light can pass through thin surfaces like these curtains, or the coat that's on the wall. It sounds like a small thing, but subsurface scattering really helps to light these things convincingly. In the trailer we can see a similar effect being used on these antlion's legs. Can't wait to shoot them off. Another little detail I liked was this computer screen, which any programmer can sympathise with, as he's written numerous programs for the gravity gloves, with mixed success. My favourites being Please Work, Final V2, and Do Not Use Not Real. And there's another computer screen up here with some more interesting information on the development of the gravity gloves, like how they're more powerful on the y-axis to account for stuff like drag and gravity. You'll spot a book on the shelf here written by Dr. Kleiner, a scientist from the other Half-Life games. I got up close to this cup, which can also be seen in the trailer. Look at how much detail there is, even on small scale stuff like this coffee table. I escaped out of the window to reveal a white environment, which I pushed through. I'm sad to say that there's nothing beyond, except infinite nothingness. There's also a rotating display of Alyx's head for some reason, and a laser display that's quite trippy to look into. I was worried for a second that it would damage my eyesight, but then I breathed a sigh of relief as I remembered that this was just VR, and it didn't matter what I looked at, because it's all probably damaging my eyesight. I spent most of my time in this preview staring at the ridiculous amounts of detail on even the most mundane of objects. I felt like a child again as I peered up at old photos, floral wallpaper and shiny surfaces, marvelling at the detail on display. I did the same when Skyrim first came out. I remember staring at a staff on a loading screen, wondering how they had the time to give it so much detail in a game with so many objects. And the same's true in this game. It's like jumping to the next generation of graphics, and knowing that coffee cups will never look the same again. We can see in this picture's reflection that the room appears flat and boxy, when actually there should be lockers and stuff sticking out from the walls. These reflections are still a jump up in quality and accuracy compared to Source 1 though. Not that that's saying much. Did you know that the table here is floating above the ground? In fact, there isn't actually even a table here, it's just a cloth draped over nothing. Valve, please fix. There's some blood on the window. I wondered if it was painted, but whatever it is, they forgot to cover the underside. I bet it's blood. So how does this place compare with the screenshot that Valve gave us of it? As Valve has said, these environments are similar to how they'll be in Half-Life Alyx, but there are some differences with how they'll look. Aside from a few props being in different places, the most noticeable differences I could see were things like the volumetric lighting. In the full game, you'll be able to make out God rays coming down from the grid in the ceiling, while the SteamVR version does not have this. And I think Half-Life Alyx's lighting will have more contrast and softer edges to spotlights rather than an abrupt line between light and dark. Also bear in mind that the screenshot is a higher resolution than the in-game footage I'm recording, which helps to give it more definition. When it comes out, Half-Life Alyx will have a photo mode for you to take nice pictures with. The only thing I didn't like exploring was this dark corner because the blue walkable area grid was so bright compared to the scenery that I felt I was almost blind and it became uncomfortable to navigate. Maybe this is one of the downsides of the Valve Index's poor black levels. For the game itself, I'll probably reduce the brightness or complexity of this grid. But I understand that this might not be a very important corner to explore, and since they're developing this game with the Index in mind, anywhere important will be lit well. Or you'll at least be given a torch. Yes, it's a torch. Tell you what, I'm not going to talk anymore, I'll just show you some more footage around, through and outside these rooms. I've been asked by a few people now if I could record myself playing through Half-Life Alyx. If I was to do that, would you want it with or without commentary? And how much of it could be spent staring at walls? And would I be allowed to upscale?